Adin, welcome to Elevate Today podcast.
Thank you very much, Hannah. I'm happy to be here.
So, me and Adin known each other since we were very young. I mean, I was very young. You've always been an adult since I've known you.
Mm-hmm.
And recently we just talked, and it was when I was in a very just in my head, kind of stressed out. My eye wouldn't stop twitching, and I feel like I didn't have this peace of mind, this piece of life that I feel like I needed to just live day by day. And after talking to you, I didn't even tell you this, but I felt so enlightened, so empowered, so refreshed that I was just overthinking the wrong thing. And that's why I was just super hyped to have you on here and pretty much share your messages, your perspective on life and the things that you've been through, especially from how far you've come with your life journey, because I want my guests to feel the same way you made me feel just from sharing your thoughts. So let's talk about your process, like where you came from, how we met, and then like where you are now.
Yes, thank you for that. I appreciate that introduction. Where to start? So I'll briefly summarize my journey up to the present moment. I was born into a family that practices Christianity under the apostolic faith. So that just means they follow Lord Christ and the Bible, and there's different interpretations of how one should follow these instructions. The Bible is just instructions essentially to teach us how to live moment by moment. So I was born into this family, and of 8, I'm the 7th youngest, my dear parents. And so we have gone to church regularly and practice different rituals and so forth according to the Bible, and of course interpretation of the Bible also, because that's what it comes down to. If we don't have a proper teacher in any field of activity, then we take to someone's instruction, generally speaking. And so in this way, it's easy for us to get misguided depending on someone's interpretation of whatever it may be. In this case, it's scripture, any book for that matter. Therefore, it's very important that we take to a bona fide teacher and put our full faith in that process. So this is any field of activity or any field of knowledge. We do this. We find that even at present day, we go to grade school or elementary, then we go to middle or junior high school, whatever it's called nowadays, high school, and then depending on our desires, then we go on to the college, university, and then a master's and so forth. So like that, at every stage we have a teacher according to the consciousness of the individual. So going back to my story, I grew up in this faith, this religious practice, and it was amazing. A lot of moral instructions and character building activities that we did regularly. So these things are instilled in my heart, my mind still. But it came to a certain point where I drew away from it. I was involved in sporting, as you know, Hannah. So that was my main goal, is to be the best wrestler I could possibly be. And nothing else really mattered to me. I only went to school and classes and so forth, so that way I could retain eligibility to train and compete. But that was never my original desire with sporting specifically. That being said, once I got to university, Cal State Fullerton, Southern California, Orange County, I had a lot of liberty at that point. And so I made many choices that were not in line with what I was taught. And
like just the college party life.
Yes, essentially. So that it comes down to just being, I should say, feeling, maybe not being to someone else, but for me, feeling trapped and being influenced to behave in a certain way. which I can only understand to a certain degree because I'm not a parent. So I can't speak on that boldly. But what I can say is, as a son, I felt trapped. And so therefore it led me to make decisions that were less than ideal. So long story short, I've chose that point in from college. I was feeling a lot of liberty to make different choices, and that steered me away from organized religion and religion in general. I started from university. I failed out. I had no more desire to go to school and be under the institution, because wrestling, the program there at Fullerton at that time, was destined to be cut under the Title IX protocol. Basically, what it meant is that priority sports were given importance, and also the women's sports they also wanted to bring up. So at that time, I think they were bringing in tennis or something like that.
They were cutting wrestling?
Cutting wrestling.
Whoa.
Yeah. So that happened also before. From 12th grade, senior year, Mondo Gonzalez Jr., who you know, him and we had already committed to Fresno State. That program also got cut, but they gave us a choice: honor it and the scholarship, and you can just go to school like a normal student, all 4 or 5 years, whatever it takes, or you go to another college and we honor the scholarship you have right now for 1 year. So we chose to honor that 1 year scholarship at Fullerton, and then after that the coaches give is their choice to continue that or not. Anyways, that drew me away for some time, and I started going into mixed martial arts after I had returned from Orange County back up to Gilroy, California, and I competed there for about 7 years. And it was also great, but reflecting, it was more just a vainglory for me. Vainglory, and I mean to say that, is that tying it in with spirituality, which will be the topic of today, and elevating our consciousness through spirituality, is that it was just done for having attention. And there was a pure side of it also. Just from a young age, I'd really enjoyed the aspect of intense sporting, the training that's involved with it, and having a rigid program in place, and then testing oneself against someone else. That was pure and everything, but it got to a point where I understood that for me personally, it was vainglory. So 7 years goes by like that. I started turning towards the end of that 7 years. I started feeling something inside that was saying it's not in alignment with what is needed next. I didn't know exactly what that was at the time, but I knew what it wasn't, and mixed martial arts was under that category of what it wasn't for me.
And how far into it were you?
At that point, I already had 10 fights total.
Wow.
Yes. So I spend a good amount of time and energy in that sport. So then it put me into what we understand yoga to be, for most people, is the physical form of yoga.
Yeah.
But if we just study it a little bit, yoga is actually a Sanskrit word. It's coming from the root word yuj or yug, and this means to bring two things together, or to connect, and yoke. And so if we just ponder that word alone, linking, connecting, or yoking, automatically we must understand there are two different things coming together. So what are those two things? So that led me on a lot of research. And so what I originally had went into as just a physically health, a health thing, turned into something more in depth, because there's actually what are called yama and niyama. I'll briefly summarize it as we go into the conversation, but Ashtanga yoga means, Ashta means 8, and then Anga means limb. So it's 8 limbs yoga of connection or communion. And the first two are yama and niyama. Yama means social conduct in which we outwardly express ourselves or interact with the outside world. And then niyama is our internal environment, things that are specific to us only. And there are different principles I can go off of that, but just for now, it led me into these different branches of knowledge and discipline and moral conduct in which to observe that are in connection with this yoga asana, which is the physical form of yoga. So fast forward, it led me on a different path, and now I'm here having this conversation with you.
Dang. And how long was that journey for you as you like transitioned from deciding to be done with fighting to realizing that you wanted to pursue the study of yoga?
Almost immediately.
Really?
So yes. I was already, basically the last contest I had, mixed martial arts, I was already detached. I was already trying to find a way out. But I'd already verbally accepted this fight. And therefore, just to honor that vow I had already made to myself and that person, I went through with it. And my heart was already gone at that point. I had no connection with it. It was just a formality at that point.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about what that feels like? Like that doing something that you know you're not supposed to do. What does that feel like?
It's called cognitive dissonance. And the technical term is that. And just means that you know what's right, but you do what's wrong, or you do otherwise at least. And this creates division in our mind. This creates disturbance in our mind, which can stem many adverse thoughts and emotions tied to those thoughts. So what the yoga texts state, like one is called the Bhagavad Gita and another is called the Srimad Bhagavatam. These are yoga texts, and it's a Sanskrit knowledge or language. What it states is that we as living entities, we are dressed in this human body. And who we truly are is actually a spirit soul, and that is expressed it as consciousness. So right now, Hannah and Adin, we're able to have a conversation because there's two conscious living entities. Mm-hmm. If the spirit was to leave that body now, and I drop down on the floor, and what leaves the body is the spirit, but the same body will be here. So this is a topic of controversy for some groups of people, but just for the sake of argument, don't call it spirit, don't call it spirit soul, don't call it metaphysical, don't call it antimatter. On account of something inside of us, this body is animated, and therefore whatever, on account of that something, we exist as human beings. Mm-hmm. But the spirit, because we know this body has an expiration date, at a certain point in time I will cease to breathe and the life's force will exit from this body. So what is that, is the first question that one should ask theirself. Mm-hmm. And so in our movement, which is called the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Krishna is a Sanskrit word that describes the attractive feature of what we commonly call God, or people say the universe, or that the energy, the vibe, like this. So what is that? Are these real?
No.
Okay. So if this was real, this plant, there's a seed, you sow the seed in the soil, and if there is favorable conditions, then this plant will fructify. And that means that there's intelligence behind it. Mm-hmm. Who is that intelligence? What is that intelligence? Yeah. Because we don't create it. All the ingredients, the material elements are already here. We just arrange them in a certain way and then they fructify. Mm-hmm. So in the same way, this building was not here before, but all the raw materials were gathered. A plan was put in place in the mind, and then individuals shared that idea through words, and then they designed this plan together, and then they execute it. They get all the materials, they get the resources, the people, and manpower. So in this way, everything is here. We don't create anything, we just arrange it in a particular way. So who put these things here? That's the question. So again, we go back to, what do we call that? And we call it in our movement Krishna. That means that there's a supreme person that is different from you and I, meaning that it doesn't have a material body that will die in due course of time. It's called Sat, Chit, Ananda, and Vigraha, these 4 words. Sat means eternal, Chit means knowledge, and then Ananda means blissfulness. The 4th word, Vigraha, refers to form, that intelligence, the universal energy, or whatever we want to call that, actually has a form. It's not a formless entity that is just light or something like that. So going back to that, if we understand that we're a spirit soul, we're eternal, we're filled with knowledge, and we're bliss in our uncontaminated state, meaning right now we operate under these different designations. And like we spoke about briefly last week, you identify as Hannah, as a female, as a certain age, as the daughter of Dan Loxon and Denise Loxon, as a sister, and so forth. And these identifications, which are supplementary, meaning they're secondary to who you and I truly are, will determine your next course of action. So it's like this. I'm Hannah, I'm female, I go to the female restroom. I'm at this particular age, developing in my life, so I make certain choices based off of that, and so forth. So myself also. This is required, actually. However, what one of my mentors says is that if we understand this basic truth that I'm a spirit soul, I'm eternal in nature, and I'm temporarily occupying this human body, then we have enlightened engagement with the world, meaning that we honor these upadhis, mental designations that are again required for the time being. I go into the men's, you go into the women's, you go back home to your family, I go back home to my family, like this. We don't just roam the world saying I'm a spirit soul and I can go anywhere and don't forget the rules and regulations. So there'll be consequences for that. So in this way, we have enlightened engagement with the world. We honor our temporary position, female, male, so forth. And at the same time, ultimately understanding our prime identity, that of spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna or God. And the text in the Bhagavad Gita, it's stated in the 15th chapter, 7th verse, it states, Mame vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana mana shastandriyani prakriti stani karshati. So if we break down this verse briefly, Mame, mama means mine, because this is Krishna speaking to Arjuna, the God speaking to his disciple or student. Mama means mine, eva certainly, amsha means limb or part, jiva loke, in this conditioned world. Mame vamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. These jivas, individual spirit souls, are sanatan, eternal. Mana shastandriyani, mana, mind, shastani, 6, indriyani, senses. These 6 senses, we have the taste, touch, so forth. They're referring to these things, body. Prakriti stani karshati. Prakriti means material nature, that which we live in, including this body, including this mind, and including the intelligence. Stani, situated, karshati. Karshati means struggling hard. And in the purport of that verse, Srila Prabhupada, who is one of our mentors in our movement, translates karshati as grappling. So if we've ever, I know you've done some grappling and I think you still do it.
Yes.
If we've ever been in a grappling match with someone live, we understand the struggle that's involved. You're getting pushed and pulled and twisted and dragged and all these different things. It's a lot of energy just to withhold that, let alone try to dominate someone else into submission or whatever the intention. So back to this, how it pertains to us, is that Krishna is saying that these conditioned souls that are eternal in nature are part and parcel of me, Krishna is saying. And of the senses, taste, touch, so forth, including the mind, 6 in total, we're struggling with. And so back to what you prefaced about the topic of how to bring more awareness and how to elevate.
Yeah.
So if we understand who we truly are, what the features, the characteristics, and the supreme goal of that identity, again, a spirit, soul, eternal in nature, part and parcel, meant to offer bhakti or loving devotional service unto the supreme lovable object. We're all here trying to, it says that we're the need of the soul is to love and to give love. That's what fulfills our heart.
I agree with
and
that.
This gets expressed in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding that the soul wants to love and be loved, that's its natural state, and that we are that soul. Being a human being inside this temporary, this is a machine. There's a lever right here. There's a pumping system in the heart like this. And there's pipes in the form of veins going through. It's just a very complex and very intelligently created machine, but it's no different from this microphone that also has a lever, and this also has a lever. So in this way, going back to the verse, is that Krishna is stating that this kshetra, this field of activities, including our mind, manas, we're struggling with it. And the mind is considered the seat of all activities. Mind is, its 3 functions are thinking, feeling, and willing, according to the yoga text. And then our mind, buddhi, comes in as the faculty of discrimination or discernment, and it filters out. That's where the earlier thing, cognitive dissonance, knowing what's right but doing otherwise. So that is to say that our intelligence is not very strong. Our mind, although in superiority, it goes elements wise, and our material makeup is earth, water, fire, air, ether. So all of these things are there. People die, they get buried, their body goes back to the earth. Water is there, we drink it. You kindly provided this water, thank you. Earth, water, fire. Fire is there. It's called Agni in Sanskrit terms or Ayurvedic terms. There's a fire in here. That's why some people, when it's out of balance, they experience what? Fever. And some people will actually, they can die from that. Their body literally burns from the inside out, and the soul leaves the body. Air, we breathe it. That's very simple to understand. Ether means that which accommodates for space. That's called Akash in Sanskrit terms. These are the 5 physical gross elements of our body. And then going subtle, meaning that it's not tangible like this. I can touch my body, it's subtle, but it's there. Manas, mind, buddhi, intelligence, and ahankara, or false ego, when we falsely identify with our body and or mind.
Which is kind of how society functions today.
In general, yes. And so this is called aham mameti. Aham, I am, mameti means this body. So when we identify with this body, now concentrated, meaning directly, or extended selfishness predominates our actions. Now I'm thinking for the welfare of myself and those in my circle of influence. And more or less, I don't care about anyone else because I'm looking out for my own benefit. So we say my body, my family, my house, my city, my state, and so forth. This starts to extend. Although this is required, the mindset of I'm in this body and I need to protect it and others too, it's not the ultimate reality according to the yoga text, Bhagavad Gita. So if we go back to the verse, Sanatan, Krishna saying, you're eternal. I'm eternal. You're like me. And the Bible says man is created in the image of God. So what that's saying is that we're eternal like God. But in terms of our quantity of these qualities of God, We're Anu, small, and he's Vibu, great. And that's why he's the supreme. He is the king, and he is meant to be worshipped and served. Mm-hmm. So this is our natural constitution according to the Oa text. And when we serve out of love, we feel at home, just as a fish is at home in the water. When it's out of the water, it's flailing all over the place. It's gasping for water. And if it doesn't go back into the water soon, it will die. So in the same way, we are out of the water, spiritually speaking.
Yes.
And when we are out of the water spiritually, then criminal activity or less than ideal behavior predominates the world. And now we get so much division. All because we don't understand our true identity. And our minds, therefore, are out of control. So what one of my mentors states, Hannah, is that through deliberate practice and through detachment, the Bhagavad Gita also states this. It means through abhyas and vairagya. Yuktaya means to be equipped with these things. That we can practice detachment from our body and mind. And through this practice, we can start to gain control over it. So just like you have a phone there, if we understand what its features are, what the applications are there, then we can better utilize it in our favor. In the same way, we start to understand this body, this mind, the intelligence, by way of spirit. Understanding that in superiority, it's more powerful than these lower energies. There's a different category altogether. Then we can start to control our mind. Then we can make sound decision based off of Shastra. Shastra means revealed scripture. And that this is what one of my mentors says, Srila Prabhupada, is that any bona fide spiritual religious practice has a scripture to it. And we can go into detail about it, but to keep it brief, if that practice is bringing us closer to God, meaning that we are feeling that divine connection and we're feeling love ultimately, and that's reflected with our relationships with the outside world. When we do this and we're developing that love, cultivating it, then we're doing it right. The practice itself or the system itself is bona fide, and my sincerity in practically applying that path, that system is there. And therefore, I'm making progress. And everyone can feel it. That's what it comes down to.
And what about, like, how do you draw the line, though, of loving too much, of giving too much of your heart, of not getting taken advantage of? Because it's almost like we have to be careful when people are so full of themselves, where they will take advantage of one's kindness and love.
Yes. So good question. Some of my mentors, I have a lot of them. Some of my mentors say, one of them says, TLN. He says, tender, loving neglect. So if there is someone that, or something, it could be a person, a place, or a thing, anything really, words, thoughts. If we deem that unfavorable association, then we should reject it like poison. And if it's a person, someone that's very near and dear to our heart, say a family member, or for example, myself with 20 plus years of relationship with different individuals through sporting, and we were very close outside of that also. We respectfully reject it like poison, and from a distance, we practice tender, loving neglect, meaning that we offer our goodwill, however that looks for you, whether it be through prayer, through it maybe just thinking about it. But I offer my goodwill to that person from a distance. The same thing with places and with things. Understand the utility. For right now, you're not favorable for me, and therefore I will go this way and you go that way. And that can be very difficult at times. But we must use our intelligence, our buddhi, to discriminate and discern between these things. If I'm getting taken advantage of, then I should practice some distancing.
And that's usually because one won't receive you in your truest identity well.
That happens. So if I know that I'm a spirit soul and my true nature is my eternal activities to serve God with love, then this is the way they give the example. Oftentimes in the yoga text, it's like this. Like a tree, God or Krishna is the root, and we are the branches, twigs, leaves, flowers, fruits, and so forth. When we use water and we hydrate the root of the tree, then naturally all of the rest of the tree becomes nourished. So in this way, if we practice this loving devotional service, which is in its beginning stages or preliminary stages, requires rules and regulations, because most people don't understand this, that I'm a spirit soul in a human body traversing this earth, and we're making all these decisions based off of this false identification. They need convincing. They need persuasion. That is where, on our part, we take to a bona fide spiritual practice under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual teacher, and we follow that teacher's instructions as our life and soul. 100%. I don't make my own interpretation. It's called Tambidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. What it means that the first thing is complete surrender. Then inquiry. Then service.
What's inquiry?
Inquiry means to question. So if we bring it back on a little bit of context, we don't know our position, what it ultimately is. Therefore, I need knowledge. I need jnana or vidya. I need understanding. Who can give me the understanding? A bona fide teacher in that field of activity or subject matter. So spirituality is the same exact way as anything, any formal institution. Say I go for kinesiology, I go for psychology. There are bona fide teachers in that field of knowledge. And we surrender to that person. We sit down, we honor the time period. We say, okay, they recommend a curriculum, books to follow, and they give out instructions. They give out homework or assignments and so forth. And if we take to that process, then we also will gain more knowledge, more understanding, and then we can utilize that in our favor. In the same way, spirituality takes place. There's a subject matter, spirituality. There's a teacher, acharya. Acharya means one who teaches by personal example. So going back to it, we take to this process and we understand that I have an ultimate identity, and to reestablish that identity in truth, not just theoretically, not because I've heard it, seen it, read it, someone's told me about it, but practically realizing my true position and the activities in that position. That's called vijnana. So there's in science, there's hypothesis, experiment, and result. Spirituality or religious practice is the same way. Jnana means theoretical or philosophical knowledge. I heard it, seen it, or read about it. Then there's the experiment. That's where I actually put it into practice, and I get a certain result. Now, if I can repeat that result, then I can understand it, that it is truth, it's bona fide, it's a fact. So in the same way, there's different spiritual experiments that we can do on ourselves. We don't have to be count on anyone else. We do it on ourselves, and we get a what's called rasam, taste. And then when we can repeat this experiment, get the same result by what's called pratyaksha praman. Praman means evident, pratyaksha means directly. we get this direct experience in the form of a feeling within our heart, where the spirit soul is said to reside from here to here in the heart region. And it's 1/10,000th part the upper portion of the tip of a hair in its magnitude. And the consciousness pervades the entire body. And that's the spirit soul. So coming back to it, through direct experience, pratyaksha praman, we can understand God through a loving emotion or sentiment, if we're sincere and serious about the process. And in this way, we start to understand. God reveals, because what it says, Sarvasya chaham hridisani vishto matas mitidgyanam apohanam cha. Krishna is saying, I am situated in your heart. And matasmriti, from me come knowledge, remembrance, and apohanam, forgetfulness. So what God or Krishna is saying is that your eternal position you have forgotten, because many lives you have passed in different forms of bodies, in different planets, and in different universes. And just because you can't remember them doesn't mean they didn't happen. So it is to be said that, back to the verse, Mame Vamsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, in this conditioned world, 3 conditions, sattva, rajas, and tamas, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Guna means modality or mode. Sometimes it's actually interpreted to rope, that we're actually bound by these ropes, these 3 different energies that are oscillating, and we can observe them very easily. Sometimes, like if in ourself or myself, sometimes I act in goodness, sometimes I act passionately, and sometimes I act ignorantly. Yeah, up to this point. So these 3 energies are at play at every moment of the day and night. So just understanding that we're eternal spirit souls, many different lives we have passed, and as long as we're in any sort of material body, material meaning not spiritual, not of spiritual, what you call energy. Any material body, all living entities are under these 3 modes of material nature, and they're guna bound by them. And so just understanding this is the very fabric of the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Spirit soul, eternal in nature, under certain conditions in a human body, temporarily, being bound by goodness, passion, and ignorance. But the good news is there is a process. This is where bhakti yoga enters. Loving devotional service, connecting by affection, love as an action word, not just thinking, not just saying, but using this body and its corresponding senses, both gross and subtle, to offer an act of love to God or Krishna. And because Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kinchat jagatyam jagat tanatyektana banjinta magrita kasya svidanam. Krishna is the supreme controller, and everything here is owned by him. Therefore, one should only accept those things that are set aside as his or her quota, not take other things, knowing well to whom they belong.
Like materialistic.
Enter kama, krodha, lobha, lust, anger, and greed, which are the 3, what Krishna states in the Bhagavad Gita, are the 3 gateways to hell, he says.
Lust, anger,
and greed.
Greed is money.
Yeah,
Anger's anger. Lust takes over everything, really. That's very, really true. The greatest evil in the world is by those that have all of that. All 3.
Yes.
We're really living the wrong way. Like, we have it so twisted in the day and age, in just take out God, take out religion, take out any spirituality. The way that society leads us to go is literally killing us, and it's so sad to see. I mean, there's suicides and lust leading to the evilest things your brain could imagine, all proven to be true, and money being like a rat race of no, not don't give some to service, don't give some to people in need, just the same old cycle of more and more. And there's abundance, but through abundance you can be generous, but through greed it's like more and more and never enough. And now spirit doesn't matter, family doesn't matter, all that matters is this race to get more. And the anger destroys a lot. Wow.
Yes, so that is very nice. One of my mentors also says that desire is a natural function of the spirit. And so we can't stop desiring. But what we can do is redirect our desire from material to spiritual. And then that loving propensity, we also direct it to spiritual. Naturally, our material necessities will be met. Because if we're, again, Isha, controller, God, if we are offering loving devotional service, then he will see to our needs, because everything is already here. It's just about dispersing it in proportion accordingly. So take care of our spiritual needs to make us a Sukhi Nara, Sukhi happy, not a human. My mentor says Sukhi Nara. Yes, to be a Sukhi Nara, there's one active ingredient, just like in baking soda or something. Like there's an active ingredient and there's inactive ingredients. The active ingredient for a Sukhi Nara, or a happy human, is a spiritual practice. And as long as this is lacking, then there will be no elevation. There will actually be only decreasing. And the yoga texts also cover this implicitly, that everything is on the fall, because we're getting further and further away from God, so to speak. You don't actually go away, but because again, it's what's called Param Atma. Param means topmost or superior, and Atma means soul. That Krishna or God is the all-pervading super soul, Paramatma, in every living entities, moving and non-moving. Plants are also living; they fructify. It means that there's a spirit there, but they have a different body. It's the way the yoga texts state. They give this example is that it's two birds sitting on one tree. One bird, us, the jiva, is eating the fruits of this material world, and the Paramatma, or the all-pervading soul, super soul, is simply witnessing and awarding the proper result. Some people will say, okay, there's so much evil in this world. There's so many things that are just not good happening. And if there's an all-merciful God or Krishna, you say, out there, then why are all these things happening if he's one of love and mercy and so forth? What the yoga texts state is like the Bhagavad Gita. It's 700 verses, 18 chapters. In the 18th chapter, Krishna has spoken the entire Bhagavad Gita, which for common moment, this moment, our understanding, it's comparable to a Bible or what you call Quran. It's comparable in that way. It's that it's messages or instructions from God.
Can you talk about the language of that you were speaking?
Sanskrit. Yeah, Sanskrit. It's also called Devanagari. Sanskrita means reformed. It's essentially the highest form or sound that we can utter, and it's likened to the language of the demigods or the devas. It means that there are superior living entities that are agents of Krishna or God. It's just like here in United States, there's a president, Joe Biden's present moment, holding that post. So he has a cabinet and he has a governmental system where different agents cover different departments.
Yeah.
For example, the Department of Treasury, the Department of Self-Defense, so forth. So he himself is not directly involved with that, but he oversees it. So in this way, in the way the example is being given, Joe Biden is in the position of Krishna, and they're agents, demigods that are carrying out his orders. So back to the question, Sanskrit is the language of the demigods, and it's all sung, because when it's said in the text that God is so sweet and he's so perfect, he's so pure, that when he speaks, it's a song to us. So all the meters in the yoga text, the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, they are sung actually.
Wow.
Yes. So that is the Sanskrit language. And going just into depth a little bit about it is that according to the context of the situation, one word can have several different meanings. But this is a beautiful language. It's sung and it's got profound meaning when we study the Sanskrit language. So all of these yoga texts mostly are recorded in Sanskrit.
Wow.
And so is there videos playing or is it just audio here?
It is video and audio.
Okay, so I'll just show one real quick. I don't know if it can... Is it that one?
Yes.
Will it focus?
Yes.
On the text?
Sure. I can make it.
We'll make
I've
one.
seen that before.
This one, yeah. So if anyone's care to or interested, this is Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad means God. Gita means spoken by our messages. And then as it is refers to, it means it's unadulterated. It doesn't have any addition or subtraction. The translator and commentator on this Bhagavad Gita has not put any of his personal motivation in there for any material benefit. His name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. It just means a very exalted post to someone who has dedicated their very life to spiritual practice, and not only that, but benefiting others also by elevating their consciousness. So the Bhagavad Gita as it is, I'll just show one text here that's in relation to the topic that we're talking about right now. So this is the original Sanskrit text. This is Devanagari. And this is the Roman transliteration. Means that if we read or sing this, it's the equivalent of this. So this one, for example, I'll just do it real quick. Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara tata dehantara praptir dhiras tatra namuyati. This verse translation basically states that we're spirit, soul, eternal, and we're having this human journey, and we're passing through, just like when we were a baby, we had a small baby body, and then we had a youthful body, then now we have more of an adult body, and then we'll have an old body. But the constant is the spirit soul. It's remaining the same.
Yeah.
So this verse is telling us that we are spiritual in nature, we're eternal, and we're having this temporary human experience that is going through many changes at every moment, actually. So we generally call this growth, which it is. The body does grow, but it's actually changing. It's a change of body. I no longer have the baby body, drinking milk and all these things, napping and spoiling my pamper. That body is no longer there. It's gone. Now it's a different body. But the spirit is the same. But the consciousness gets covered. And this is where, again, Krishna says, Sarvasya chaham hridisani vishto matar smriti jnanam apohanam cha. He's seated in the heart. He's giving knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. And just because we can't remember our change of this body in this life from previous and the next one that's coming, doesn't mean it didn't happen. So dhiras tatra namuyati. Dhiras, a sober person, not muyati, is not bewildered by this change of body. This is spirituality 101. Understanding I'm a eternal spirit soul. That's the first lesson. Practically realize this, then everything else will come in due course of time.
Yeah. And you feel that peace. You feel the joy. You feel it daily?
Yes. This is where practice is involved. So right now, present moment, generally speaking on a world scale, most people are completely unaware of this fact. It's a fact. As long as we don't understand this fact, lust, anger, greed, kama, krodha, lobha. And with those three things come klesha, misery. So many things adverse are happening around the world.
Yeah.
Pestilence, famine, wars, hot and cold. Cold means just I'm threatening. Hot means I'm actually in the warfare physically. Unpredictable weather patterns. Severe cold, severe heat, flooding in Africa. So many different things are happening. This is happening on account of our papam. Papam means our sin. Collectively. We individually will suffer from it. And then collectively as a human society and everything involved on the surface of this earth globe is also dealing with similar kleshas to various degrees and categories.
Wow. It's like it's impossible to elevate without spiritual consciousness.
100%. It cannot happen. That's why it's the saying of material problem, spiritual solution. And even some, I forget who said it might have been Albert Einstein, but you cannot solve a problem on the same platform in which it was created. But what is required? Elevation. How do we do that? By spiritual intelligence. And how do we develop that? Many different ways, but one of them is through swadhyaya, means study of the revealed scriptures of one's choice. And under that category is self-reflection. Seeing seeing chakshu, seeing vision, the world, and including myself, my actions, both present and past and future to come, through the lens of the Shastra.
Wow.
So this is required for what Srila Prabhupada states as a one world state that has peace, that has prosperity, that has love. And only through this is it possible. Otherwise we have what our present situation is, which we all know, and I won't go into detail about because it just disturbs our mind.
It does.
But there are things that we can do, and it starts with ourselves. Let me take to the process. Let me understand that I am a spirit soul, eternal in nature, and that I have activities in that relationship with Krishna or God. What are those activities?
What would be a great first practice for someone who is very dry in their spirit, in their heart, but they want that peace, prosperity, joy that's been unfamiliar to them?
Yes. Very easy is what's called japa. Japam is a Sanskrit word. It means low, audible repetition of the holy names of God, which the yoga texts state in this Kali Yuga. We can compare it to the seasons. There are different seasons, 4 of them, 4 different yugas. But this is called Kali, the age of hypocrisy and quarrel, or the Iron Age. So the slightest misunderstanding, hypocrisy, there's quarrel. Because people are so agitated, so tense, and so forth. Anyways, a very simple practice is japa, repetition of the holy names of God. And in this Kali Yuga, the recommended yagya or sacrifice is Harinam yagya or Sankirtan yagya. Sam means together or everything, everyone, and kirtanam or kirta means to make someone famous. So chanting Hare, direct address to God, Krishna, attractive feature of God, and Rama. These three words, Rama means spiritual pleasure. Just like we get material pleasure from eating a very nice meal, and sometimes if we sleep correctly in the right amount of time, we feel very refreshed, and that's we're getting pleasure from that. This is spiritual pleasure, which nourishes our soul. So these three words, Hare, Krishna, and Rama, if we just simply chant these names to the best of our ability, my mentor says SNS, smallest next step, and then be consistent. Do this and just as an experiment, see what happens. Don't take my word for it. Don't take anyone else's word for it. Just you make a self-experiment and become a scientist and observe the result. And in this way, we can make a little progress. Japa. It's an individual practice. That oftentimes can be challenging, though. It's recommended Sangha, association with other like-minded individuals. That's where Samkirtan comes into play. Some means the same thing as japa, but doing it in call and response fashion, out loud, and doesn't have to be with instruments, but it makes it very beautiful. It makes it melodious, harmonious, and it just brings so much joy. So one of my mentors, he just says it like this: Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And the audience will repeat. There's one leader, then the congregation responds. And in this way, you go back and forth. And because it's connecting with our heart, our soul, it elevates us. And we're able to see the difference practically between myself, who I truly am, and my body, the role I'm playing in this life. That's required, but subordinate to my prime identity. Now spirit becomes my guiding force, which influences my thoughts, my feelings, my willing, and ultimately my behavior. So Srila Prabhupada very beautifully wrote another book. He composed so many in a short amount of time because he only slept 2 hours a day.
Oh my.
Yes, so his 22 of his waking hours he devoted completely to spiritual practice. Wow. So anyways, he wrote another book, composed another one called The Science of Self-Realization. And in that, he has one interview with a lieutenant of a police force. And the police lieutenant says basically questions, makes an inquiry and says, I understand you have some advice, some guidance on how we can reduce criminal activity in this city. I'm really interested to know. Basically, Srila Prabhupada just said what I said. I'm paraphrasing what he said. He said, what's required is a change of heart. The very consciousness of the individual needs to be transformed. So this is called Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleansing of the heart through what? Japa and or Samkirtan, individual chanting of the holy names of God, and collective in a congregation call and response fashion. These things, and there's what's called, it's called Brahma Shabda. Brahma means God or spiritual, and Shabda means sound vibration. These are spiritual sound vibrations that are transcendental. They have nothing to do with this material world. They come directly from the spiritual realm. And they have a positive effect on our consciousness. So the only difference between someone that is a criminal and someone that is not is the criminal acts on their negative thoughts and the emotions attached to them, because the emotion comes almost immediately after the thought. We think about something and we have a certain feeling about that thought. Then, say for example, I feel thirsty. My body is thirsty. It needs water. Now I feel a certain way about that. Now how thirsty am I? Then I will myself, okay, I need to grab this, open it up and take a drink.
Yes.
Now I'm acting it out from the subtle form of the desire. Thinking. The only difference between a law-abiding citizen and a criminal is that the criminal acts on his or her bad thoughts or evil thoughts, whereas the law-abiding citizen does not. They restrain themselves. So what Srila Prabhupada states is that those individuals need to have a transformation of their consciousness. So that's where this comes into play. The International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It just means an elevated state of thinking, which leads to our behavior, how we actually behave ourselves. So we don't want that criminal to behave that way anymore. Okay? Well, now people understand there's a psychological aspect. They call it like this: conscious mind, subconscious mind, and all these things. They understand that the mind is important, but they don't understand how to have meaningful impact on someone's mind because there's not a program in place. There's little things you can do, like practice gratitude or give, something like that. But these things are temporary. They'll have just a momentary effect on our consciousness. We need something that's long lasting. This is where the chanting of the holy names, individually and collective, come into place. And there are other things that we can do. But back to your question, what's someone who's dry, a beginner into this practice that has an interest?
Yeah.
Chant the holy names of God. Smallest next step, consistently, and experiment on yourself. Get a taste. The proof of the pudding is in the tasting. There's one saying like that. It says no different. Don't take anyone else's words. You practice and see what happens.
Dang. That's very powerful. Well, we can close off there, and you can come back on once you feel like you have your message stirring up that you want to share to times like now, and the fact that like people are really struggling right now. They need to hear this. Like, this message alone gives me hope that, like, guys, we're gonna be okay if we apply these principles, if we stop realizing that fixing all these different things, being mad about the problem, isn't actually changing the problem. The change of heart is where it comes from. And I even was brought to mind when you're talking about how, like, our spirit stays the same since we were children to now. I feel like you've always had this spirit aspect about you that just bypassed age, that bypassed like, oh, all the don't play with the kids, they're just the kids. You know, I've always been Coach Jan's daughter, Isa's sister, me and my sister. And I remember when you first came around, you were always like playing with us or hanging out or showing us a song. And like, that's why you're always going to be the most memorable like wrestler from back then, because how you are now is like there's a part of you that was still there too, like beyond time. Nothing really changed. You have that heart that as a child I felt that. As a child you were my favorite, and the time that I spent with you when we talked on Monday was so healing for me. And so I do want to say, like, thank you for choosing a path of intentionally enlightening others. And I know that there's a lot of challenges with that, coming from similar backgrounds or just being different, but it's like, this is really what is needed to heal the world, the spiritual intentionality. So thank you for that. Thank you for taking the time to share your message. I know it's going to touch people.
Wow, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So we will close off there. That is Elevated, guys. That is Elevated to Elevate Today podcast, where you elevate your consciousness. And these were some really practical tips that you can do and apply to your life. So thank you, guys. This is Adin.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.